Greetings, our fellow listeners. Welcome to another edition of the Student Life Edvisors podcast. My name is Tré.
I'm Elaine.
And today we are bringing you another episode with the information that you need to know. We are specifically discussing a topic that is very important, that we want to bring some light to, that topic being mental health in college. So we want to talk about some of the causes for anxiety, stress in college, and then some ways that we can deal with that, resources that are available, and a little bit of our relationship to that as students as well. So let's first off jump into the causes. There's a multitude of these, but one we know very well based on the reason why we're doing this podcast, right? Let's talk about the financial aspect of it.
It can be a lot and it adds up, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I mean, so I kind of did something that added to it, which I thought was going to help it. And that was, I had always tried to be financially independent. As soon as I could start working in high school, I wanted to start working. Even before that, I was doing like odd jobs, babysitting, little things here and there to earn some money.
Hustling.
And I didn't really like feeling like, I don't know, a weird way of defeated. Is that a way to put it? Like where you're being told like, we're all going to do this. And I don't want to be the one being like, I can't afford it. So in a weird way, I would always try to find a way. So I think in college at one point I had 3 jobs while going to school full time.
That sounds like burnout to me.
And it led to a bit of a burnout situation where I was always tired, always anxious, always feeling like I never had enough time in the day because I probably didn't.
Right, legitimately.
And I'm thinking like, well, it's a few hours here, it's a few hours there, a week, but then on top of schoolwork and trying to keep up with everything, it kind of just felt like things got out of control. And it was just a thing where, one, I thought some of these jobs were fun. I think one of them, well, I think I know. I was a hostess at like a pretty nice restaurant, and one of the perks was you could have a meal there.
Oh.
So I was like,
double dipping.
Yeah, so I could go there, get a discount too if I wanted to go out there with my friends or something. I worked at, essentially it's kind of like, it's not all 21 plus all the time. They have like pool and they had some bowling alleys. It was like this 3-floor like bar, restaurant, activity, entertainment place. And I would hand out the pool balls there. And I thought that was kind of fun too because it was kind of a popular place. So I was like, oh, and that's at night. Like they close at 1 during the week.
You'll be fine.
And I'll be fine. But then I didn't realize like you have to wait for them to close everything, cash out. Not getting home until like 3 a.m. And then I was working part-time at a company that I had been working full-time. I went to a co-op program, so I worked 6 months, and then I went to school for 6 months, but I kept that part-time. So my time just kind of felt like it disappeared on me. And I was kind of thinking, I've always been busy. Like when I was younger, I played a lot of instruments, I did sports, I did a lot of things. So I kind of felt like easy. I worked part-time too in high school. Easy, I can handle this. And it kind of led to a burnout situation where I was trying to fix the problem of never running out of spending money and money for things that I needed, but then ran into the problem of, well, I'm not really living anymore. I'm just doing, like I'm on autopilot. I'm going from one thing to the next, not processing, like kind of doing everything probably a little under 100% the whole way, like maybe anywhere from, depending on the job, 50% to 100%.
Right.
And then falling asleep.
And then doing it all again.
Doing it all over again. So it kind of felt like my life got taken away from me for a few months. And some of those things I quit pretty quickly because I was like, forget it.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah. I was like, something's got to give eventually. So that was kind of the weird thing too. It's like sometimes you try to overcorrect and you go a little overboard and you don't, instead of prioritizing how I'm spending my money, I was trying to get more money so I didn't have to do that. And college isn't really 100% the time to do that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like college is a season where although you're trying to make your way through it, even if that means paying for it yourself, you are there to be present in a sense. And oftentimes being present academically is doing the work, making sure you're there, engaging with the material. And I know when you got a lot going on outside of what your primary goal is there, which, everybody's got different goals, but with college, like graduating, hopefully. But once you've got things going on outside of that, it can detract from what you're trying to do, and it gets difficult. Like I know for me, my first year in college, I was on top of it, getting the grades I wanted to get. And then as I began to get more involved on campus with different clubs, organizations, that's when I started to experience the burnout, because like I was getting great grades, and then, you know, I took one class, I was like, oh, I haven't seen that grade since 6th grade, you know, and it was just doing so many things and feeling that burnout as well. So I wish that I had maybe tapped into some of the resources that were available on the college campus. I think that looking back on it, I know, because I used to work with new student orientation, like our school, we had like counseling services where if you just needed someone to go talk to, whether it was academically related, because some people think, oh, I'll talk to my academic advisor. It's like, well, you can, but you can also go talk to the counseling resources on campus. But whether it's academically related, even if it's personal, like financial, sometimes the counseling services at your campus could be a good source as well. And not only would they maybe even have tips, but I think more important in some cases is just somebody being there to listen and kind of take in and what you're saying, and have those conversations that may be difficult for you to have with some of your peers in college. Thank you for making it to this point in the podcast. As you know, we give you a bonus code with every episode. Use the bonus code SELFCARE, that's SELFCARE, for 100 points that you can use exclusively on scholarshippoints.com. Remember, all of those points can be used for scholarships that you can only get on the website, and we give out scholarships every single month. So use the code SELFCARE for 100 points on scholarshippoints.com, and let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, there's so many resources on campus to help you with whatever you're struggling with. I wish I used them before it got bad, like before I had to react.
Like preemptive.
Yeah, where I noticed it, but at the same time, like it could just be my age. It kind of felt like some of the stuff you didn't really talk about then.
Oh, yeah.
And now I feel like it's a very open conversation to discuss mental health or struggles. Because to be honest with you, struggling with some classes I was trying to figure out on my own, because, I don't know, I was one of those students who could always figure it out. So you give me a book, you tell me the lecture, I don't get it, I can like sit there and figure it out and finally make it click and make it work. And when you get to college, sometimes these courses aren't that simple anymore.
No, it's different.
Yeah, and you can't make it click. And I should have gone to peer tutoring and asked for help, or gone to the teacher more and did office hours more. But I always kind of felt like I never knew what to ask. But I didn't even try.
Yeah. And
didn't even try to go there and say, like, I'm just really lost. I don't even know where I got lost. I might have been lost from the beginning. I'm not sure. But I can't seem to find my way back. And then there's academic advising that can help you as well if you feel like you're stretched too thin, your courses. Because, you know, sometimes taking a full-time course load is a lot for somebody if you're trying to manage different things in your life. So maybe sometimes you need to just drop a course and go to maybe still half-time or more, because you don't want to affect your financial aid. Maybe go to 3/4 time or something just to help you through. And I wish I just looked at these resources to be like, you know what, this course is so demanding and it's taking so much of my time. Based on everything else I'm trying to juggle, like maybe I should just hold off, take a leave with that one and try again later, to not hurt my GPA. And then even mental health, like you said, I don't think people realize, or students don't realize, that a lot of campuses, if they don't have something right on campus for you, there's a way for you to access someone you can speak to for a lot of schools. And that could be just a lifeline to help you kind of work through it. So I wish I knew that. I actually ended up going to some of our counseling services, not even quite knowing what I was looking for, but knowing that I needed to talk to somebody. And they were like a lifeline. They were like, oh, we noticed like these kind of things. We actually have groups that help like address this, or we recommend coming here for just like weekly sessions for the next month and see how you feel.
Oh, wow.
And just talking it through.
Wow.
And I was like, oh.
Y'all exist?
Because I used to be in the group of people that I thought like you go to the doctor when you're sick or you hurt something. I never really quite got until I was a little older, like, oh no, they can help you with anything.
That makes me think about just even when we talk about mental health, we think about like the mental aspect of it, but I think that we're starting to come to an understanding of mental health and how it really does play into a wholeness kind of thing where there's mental health, but it's just as important as your physical health. It's just as important as this type of health. So I think that when in kind of being in a way out of balance in any of those areas can impact your mental health as a college student as well. So I think that one of the things that's really important as well is tapping into those clubs, those organizations, whatever recreational activities that will help you in that area. Like lean into that, because it can be find support, like lean into that, because that in of itself can make the college journey, which at times will have its bumps and have its ups and downs, it can make that stuff more manageable, especially if you know that you're doing it and you're not experiencing that alone.
Yeah, because you can really feel lonely on campus. I think for a lot of students, like I was in this boat, like not a lot of people went to the college I went to, even though it was local.
Mm-hmm.
My family was only 30 minutes down the street, so if I really need something, but the day-to-day going from kind of a small town in Massachusetts, the kids I went to graduated high school with were some of the kids I went to elementary school with. Like we didn't move in and out a lot. I never understood why people feared the transition to high school, because I'm like, it's just the same people in a different
building.
Yeah. Because like even in middle school, you go from elementary school to middle school. We had middle, not junior high. You go in and like there's kids up to 4 years older than you, and then you just switch and go. These are all the same kids. Like of course people come and go, but for the most part, I would say like 80%, if not more, of the same people who grew up in that town went to school together. We only had one high school. It was actually shared with another town. So it was kind of an interesting thing where I just never got it. And then, so I go from this environment where I can walk down the hall and know every single person I pass, to an environment where I'm kind of like starting over, don't really know a lot of people, don't know where I fit in, don't know what I want to study, don't know what I want to do. I don't know who has interests like mine. And I kind of feel like you make a lot of mistakes when you first, not mistakes, but you start becoming friends with people that maybe don't quite click, but it's just like a necessity thing at first, then eventually you find your people. But at the same time, it's just one of those things where you're so lonely, and if you do things that you enjoy and your campus has rec activities, club sports, musical, I did a lot of music stuff. You can find people who like the stuff that you do.
Yeah, you can.
And you can find them and like create a bond with them that you can use them as a support for yourself.
Absolutely. I know I kind of alluded to it earlier with the basketball intramural club I was a part of, but yeah, like some of those folks, well, one of them I know for sure, still cool to this day. And it was something to think about besides the schoolwork. Besides the stress of studying for classes and trying to get this particular grade and so that you can graduate and everything, I think there are certain distractions that are good ones that help create a sense of balance, because what is balance? In the college, you just got a lot going on. Maybe it's not even balance and you're just getting things done at times when you are on autopilot, but it's nice to be able to have these, I don't know if you want to call them, a place of kind of support where you can get off autopilot for a moment and just experience and enjoy that, if you will. So I think that it's important to have that. And, if there's one thing I could say to someone who is in college going through it, I would just say, make sure you just take the time to take care of yourself. And I say that because whether it's financial, whether it's time, whether it's, just you've got a lot on your plate, I think it's really important to understand that even if it's financial, something like a budget, which may sound like constraining, it really can give you the freedom, because you've got a structure that you're following to say, hey, instead of, I only have $100 a month that I can spend on this, like fun with friends, it's, oh, I have $100 that I can spend on this, so that if people want to do things, I know that I'm free to do this with them as long as it's within that, and that's cool. Yeah. Or even if it's, hey, I'm in the season right now where I have a job and I'm also in college and I'm taking all of these classes. All right, so how much time do I have to set aside to take care of these specific things? Mm-hmm. And it's all right, I need to make sure that I got an hour to study for this class, so that hour is for that. Now, what can I do with that other time that I have? And just, I think doing little things like that, although the stress is there and we're anxious about some of those things, I think that it can, in a way, like relieve some of that. Not a panacea fix all, but like definitely offer some sense of relief in that area.
Yeah, and I feel like one thing we learned from some of the essays we got from students when we were talking about obstacles about starting your first year, when we did the essay scholarship, it was a few years ago, but there was a few running themes. So there's the common ones of I don't have enough money, I don't know what to do, I'm stressed out. Then there were some common themes of, well, I'm leaving home for the first time. I'm going to be on my own. I have to say goodbye to everyone that I've seen every day. And the anxiety of coming up with a support and being scared that you don't have your support when you move, like a phone call away. But sometimes you don't want a phone call when you're already burned out, like you don't even have the energy or the time to go through, or even these people aren't experiencing things like they used to with you. So now you have to explain it. And sometimes it's hard to keep reliving it. So kind of that was one of the biggest things we saw with people who wrote into us, looking for, trying to figure out how they're going to make it work once they get there, because they're leaving such a big part of themselves. They felt like at home for the first time. So, I mean, it's all about, I think now, thankfully, there is such a stronger push for mental health.
Absolutely.
And understanding that mental health is overall health. You need to keep your mind healthy and recognize your feelings. I feel like every year I've gotten older, I feel like I've kind of picked up on different things that I've realized, like, oh, you know what? That's just like how I'm feeling, and I need to accept that and understand it and work through it and move on and get myself through whatever I need to. And you kind of figure out ways to do that as you get older. But I feel like college was one of the first times where you really had to rely on yourself until you found your support. And then, all I would say too is if you have that support and you're got a great group of friends or even people like, it's always about trying to be empathetic to anybody, being nice to everyone. Nice matters.
Yeah.
But also it's about, it's okay to have hard conversations with people and be receptive to it. Someone comes up to you and says, hey, I've been noticing you're a little off. Like maybe it's just a time that they want you to do a little self-reflection. And it's great if you have friends like that will come up to you and ask, how you doing? Is everything okay? You look a little like the last few weeks, maybe you're irritable or don't look as happy. And it's always nice to find that community of people who can help you through it. And if you don't have that right away, like if you start recognizing that, always try to find someone to talk to. It could be a medical professional who will help you get the help you need to get through that tough time.
It's really nice to have that community, and if there's a way for you to get plugged into that, awesome. Like you said, a lot of colleges will have either professionals on campus who can help you with that, and like that can be done in a safe place as well. And then who knows, you could maybe develop a nice relationship with one of the individuals on campus who is a counselor that does this, and you could develop something where maybe you meet once a month just to kind of check in and get some support there as well. So it's nice to see that these services, I think, are growing overall, because like you said, people are beginning to realize or have already started to understand that mental health is not just reserved for a specific group of people. Mental health really does impact all of us. And I think that we're seeing an emphasis on that because people have realized its importance, and it's nice that's being recognized, because that allows individuals to get help where they need it, and then also be able to help other people because there's more of an awareness of it.
I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of feel like we're all in this together in some way or another. And I think that's something you learn in college and can take you through your whole life. I think even at work here, after working for several years, people will say like, hey, you look a little off today. Is everything okay? Like people do take the time to do that as you get to know them. And even if you don't have that right away, like when I first got here, no one knew what my moods were like. So they don't exactly tune into it. But now people, I feel like they're more open to just asking like, hey, or you could be like, oh no, I just didn't really get much sleep last night. Like no big deal. It had nothing to do with anything, just tossing and turning. Or it could be like, yeah, you know, like had a issue, death in the family or something like that. Like, thanks for asking. It just kind of feels good that people care. But sometimes if you don't have that right away, it can be very isolating. But that doesn't mean there aren't resources to help you get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a good one. I think that was a good, like, just open, honest dialogue on mental health in college and the ways that kind of we've experienced that individually, and not only that, but what we see out there. I mean, if you're on the internet, like you see what's going on, you see how individuals are being impacted differently and how college is affecting people's mental health in a variety of ways.
Student loans and repayment.
Even student loans, repayment, everything.
I mean, I don't think my restless nights stopped until I finally got comfortable paying my bills after college, including student loans. So sometimes it does linger, but you know, there are ways, there are resources. Obviously, you always talk to financial aid if it's a money thing, see if they can help.
Yeah.
And if you are in true trouble that you're risking losing access to food or housing, definitely reach out to financial aid or academic advising, because there could be programs at your school to get you set up with either maybe some federal benefits to make sure you have access to food or the ability to buy food, or emergency housing even on campus as well. So I would always say that you never know until you ask. And even if the school doesn't offer it, they might know programs in the area that can help you get through that all.
Those are some great tips, Elaine. I appreciate it. I'm sure our listeners do too. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Student Life Advisors podcast. We will be back next time doing this again. Thank you.